Welcome to my session. I'm talking today about relationship unlocking opportunity. Every single one of you is here today because you are looking for the next opportunity, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your life. That's what's brought you here. And I'm going to be unpacking a roadmap that you can use relationships as the foundation for this roadmap to unlock the next opportunity. But before we get going, let me introduce myself to you. Whoopsie, let me just get my slides. There you go. So my name is Chantel Buerta. I am an identity architect and sex factor catalyst. Now, I know that's a mouthful, right? But really what it means is I help you find your X factor and architect your identity so that you can take this you-ness, this uniqueness that you are to the world, market it, and create your next opportunity. Now, fun fact, when I'm doing identity architecture with my clients, I often like to ask them the question, could you introduce yourself without referencing any of your roles or any of your jobs that you hold? And that's why I've given you this list of words, because this list of words describes me. This is who I am without my roles. So often we identify with the roles that we hold, but true self-awareness, true identity architecture is knowing all of yourself, knowing who you are, and knowing how to take this to the world. Now, these words inform how I show up in my business. These words inform how I show up in my personal relationships. These words inform how I've raised my son, right? So knowing these words allows me to show up as the purest expression of who I am. So that's my starting challenge for you. Go and think about how you would introduce yourself without referencing your roles. Let's get into it, shall we? Now, Jung said Jung said that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will forever hold us back, or it will forever control our lives, and we will call it fate. Now, I don't know about you, but as a woman, I have often come up against this glass ceiling, as it were. I've often felt like I've operated with one hand tied behind my back. I have often felt like I have had these visions for my life, and I know where I want to go, but I just can't seem to get there. And this is where identity architecture really comes into its own. Because as women, we show up as who we think we are. But what we need to do is we need to look below the surface. We need to peel back those layers of our identity, really start figuring out who we are. And look what we found. We have found this thing that is holding us back. And this is the thing where you feel like your hand is tied behind your back and you can't quite do what you're trying to do. And it doesn't matter how much you pull at this rope, you just can't seem to get rid of the shackles that are containing you. Identity work is about knowing where to pull. It's about knowing which string to pull. Because you see, if we pull the right string, you know what happens? The shackles just fall off. Before you know it, you are absolutely free to do whatever it is that you want to do. So that's what today's session is about. What do you want to do? We all want success, but success looks different to each of us. Success is standing on top of that mountain and saying, I did it, right? But how do we get there? Isn't it important that we know which mountain we want to stand on top? Because unless we define the mountain, we will forever be mucking around here in the valley with one hand tied behind our back, and we will never get where we're going. So the first step before I even introduce my roadmap to you is know what you want. I had a lady who joined my Reclaim the Flame program last year. And she said to me, Chantel, I would love to go overseas, but I feel like I don't have permission to do this. And I just want a new job. And I said to her, no. Let's talk more about this vision of yours. And we started crafting a vision, and we started defining what that mountaintop looks like for her, right? And then we put the roadmap in place. And that's what I want to encourage you to do today. Know which mountaintop you are climbing. Know what your next opportunity looks like. Because if you don't know where you're going, this roadmap ain't going to get you there. It's like a GPS system on your car. We've got to put the end result in first before the map will take us where we're going. So what I've identified is I've identified 4 mile markers on this road to success. But the caveat is know where you're going, because everything depends on knowing your vision, right? So let's start walking through these mile markers. First of all, we're going to look at internal relationships. And I told you this was all about relationships. Now, emotional intelligence is a currency that is used far and wide in the business world. You'll often see job posts referencing emotional intelligence. And it's something that we really need to get a handle on. Now, emotional intelligence has 2 legs. Know yourself, know others. So is it any wonder that I start my journey with emotional intelligence? You have to know yourself. Now, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I worked with a lady not too long ago, high-flying executive. She approached me and she said to me, Chantel, I just want to work in the Netherlands. That is my vision. I don't care what I do. She said, I will clean toilets, right? And I said to her, not going to happen, not on my watch. Because you see, what happens is when we see ourselves in that negative light, we show up with that energy of, I'm just a toilet cleaner. And what happens? The results that we get from the world, from our interviews and all the rest of it, are in accordance with how we see ourselves. So what I said to Antoinette is, let's work through our identity map. And I go through this process with many of my clients, and there's many different layers to our identity. And our identity is always shifting and changing. But I come back to the subconscious. The foundation of our identity is laid in the basement. It's the place that you don't want to go. It's the place that's sometimes painful to go to, right? In the basement, we have our belief systems. We have our core identity. This is how we show up every day. So if you have a belief system that says, I'm not good enough, like Antoinette, I'm just a toilet cleaner, right? It's going to show up. It's going to translate. So there's your belief systems. There's your trauma and your triggers. This influences the way that you show up. So we have to start by looking at your foundational, your core identity. And as we worked through this with Antoinette, all of it translated into the upper layers. And suddenly she knew what her values were. She knew what was important to her. She understood her strengths, her skills, her capabilities, the things that she brought to the world. And she started bringing this complete identity picture to the world and marketing it. And today she heads up one of the biggest finance departments in one of the biggest banks in the Netherlands, where she could have been cleaning toilets. That is the power of identity work. Know yourself. Now, what I've prepared is I have got a assessment called the Confidence Construct, and it's all of these self-awareness questions. If you want to download it, go and grab it now. It's still in beta testing, but go and grab it now, because these questions are going to show you how you see yourself. Hopefully, it's going to open up more doors for how you can start reformatting that identity. What I'm also going to do is, if you fill out my confidence construct, I'm going to send you a personal email afterwards with the results and what you could potentially do to start upping that emotional intelligence from a self-awareness perspective. Let's move on to our second mile marker. Now, I said to you, emotional intelligence has 2 legs: internal identity, or internal relationship, and external relationships. Right, so as we've reformatted this identity, what we want to do is we want to start leveraging the relationships in our world. And I worked with a lady last year, Claudia, who came to me and she said to me, Chantel, I know exactly where I'm going. I have defined the vision. I'm very clear on where I'm going. She was one of the most self-aware women I'd ever worked with. She knew her strengths, knew her values. She had control over her belief systems. She saw herself as valuable, right? But she said to me, I don't know how to get where I'm going. And I said to her, right, external relationships, let's start leveraging. The first thing I got her to do was to compile a list of all the people that she knew, both personal and professional. And then I said to her, start contacting those people. No emails, no WhatsApps, good old-fashioned telephone calls. This is relationship, guys. This is not marketing. This is relationship. Relationship will unlock your next opportunity. That's the first thing I got Claudia to start doing. And she started contacting the people in her network. And basically, it entailed her saying, this is my vision. Do you know anyone you can introduce me to? And you see how her network started building from there. The second thing I got her to do is I said to her, let's create a list of all the relationships that you don't yet have, but that are going to help you get there. What this looked like is all of her future line managers, right? So she started building relationships with the right people. She started building relationships with mentors. She had a relationship with her coach. So she started creating this cloud of relationships. And you know what happened? She wrote her own job spec because she built those external relationships. But it was on the foundation of she knew where she was going. She was incredibly self-aware. And then she started building external relationships. Can you see how these mile markers build onto one another all the time? All right, so let's move on to our third mile marker. And the third mile marker, you know where you're going. You are self-aware. You have invested in architecting your identity. You have created a cloud of relationships and you're building, nurturing, and leveraging all these relationships. Now what you want to do is you want to put in a strategy, right? Now, I love working with my namesake, Chantel, because as much as she dives into this personal development work and she wrestles with her belief systems and reformats her identity, there is not a day that goes by that this woman doesn't do something to move the needle on her strategy. She knows where she's going. She knows what she has to do every day. And this is leveraging the 1% principle. If I just change 1% today, the end of a year, I'm going to be 37% better. I don't know how the maths works. I'm not a maths muffin. But strategy, we have to move that mile or that needle on our vision every single day. So it's really good to do the inner work, but it's also very important to action the strategy. Now, because all of you are here and you're looking probably for the next career opportunity, I am going to share with you a career path plan that I use to coach my clients. I have also prepared a handout for you so you can download. I'll share the handout at the end of my session. You can download this handout and it's got this career path plan on it. But I'm just going to talk you through it very quickly. So effectively, you'll see that each bubble is numbered and we're going to follow the numbers. You're going to start down at the bottom of the page and you're going to identify where you are now. Then you're going to jump to the top of the page and you're going to identify where you want to be 12 months from now. And then you're going to chunk it backwards. 3 months before that, 3 months before that, 3 months before that. So can you see you've got a year-long career path plan and you've got these mile markers. Third quarter, second quarter, first quarter. What do I need to achieve by each mile marker in order to get where I'm going, right? And that's the chunk of your career path plan. Now, you can use this for any time interval. I use it when I teach it. I talk about a year interval, but you could do it as a 5-year plan. You could do it as a 6-month plan. Effectively, it's just about chunking back, right? And then what you want to do is you want to look at the people that are going to help you get there. You want to look at the skills and the abilities or the resources that you need to put in place, right? So maybe you need to take on a little course. Maybe you need, I don't know, a CRM system, whatever it might be. Maybe you need a file to keep track of all these relationships that you're building. What are the skills? What are the resources that you need? And then my final question, what is holding you back? Remember those ropes, those invisible ropes that when we're showing up at work and we're all pretty and beautiful and ready to tackle the day, there's this invisible rope that is holding your hand behind your back. What is holding you back? And sort it out. So this career path plan is a lovely 1-page overview of how you can achieve your goals. And of course, you can build out each bubble on additional pages as you need to. But this has helped so many of my clients. This is something that I use in my business all the time. I've got a 5-year one, and then I've got year 4, year 3, year 2, year 1. and I keep going, or I know exactly where I'm going, what I need to do in order to get where I'm going. So let's move on. The final mile marker is accountability. Now, research tells us that 80 to 90% of people don't achieve the goals they set for their lives. That is an alarming statistic. So where you're going, I want to share with you 3 reasons why people don't achieve their goals for their life. Number 1, they simply don't know where they're going. So these are the people that are hovering around in the valley because they don't know which peak they want to summit. Define your vision. Your roadmap will not work until you've defined your vision. Get really, really clear on where you're going. Second reason why people don't achieve their goals is their goals are not their own, right? So society, family, husband, whatever it is, has said to you, I think you should be a senior developer, or I think you should do X, Y, Z. And you're going, oh, okay, that sounds good. But you haven't bought into the goal. It's not your goal. How many times don't we get caught up in societal expectations? You must get a qualification. You must get married. You must have kids. You must buy a house. You must. Society tells us all these things we have to do, but stop for a moment and ask yourself, is this my goal? I'm a nomad. I don't ever want to own property. I like traveling, right? So define your goal. Or make sure that your goal is at least your own. Because if it's not your own, you're never going to buy into it. You're never going to have the motivation to get there. And the last reason that people don't achieve their goals is this baby right here, accountability. Research has shown that when we are accountable to someone, the likelihood of achieving our goal increases by up to 80%. That is huge. Now, there are many different ways you can be accountable, and I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas, right? You can hire a coach. You can enlist a good friend of yours and say to her, I want you to phone me every week and ask me, what did I do this week to get where I'm going? You can find a mentor. There are many different ways you can hold yourself accountable, but take the step. Hold yourself accountable, because without that, your chances of getting where you're going are much, much less. So find a way that works for you. And then in closing, I did promise you the handout. So I've got a detailed handout which details all 4 mile markers. It gives you some exercises you can do under each mile marker, lists you can make, questions you can ask, things you can think about. I've alluded to all of them in my talk. And of course, there is that downloadable career path plan right in that handout. But because this is an energy exchange, I am going to ask you for some feedback on my presentation. So if you scan this QR code, it'll take you through to SpeakerScore, or of course you can type in speakerscore.it. It's going to ask you for a code, enter the code, and then it's going to ask you for some feedback on my presentation. Was this valuable? Is this something you can use? And your feedback is important to me because this allows me to tailor my presentations, make sure that my message is landing with my audience. That is what I am on this earth to do. I am on this earth to inspire and to empower people to get where they're going, to get out of their own way. Thank you so much for watching. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Talk to me. Let me know if you've attended this presentation, how it landed for you. Be accountable. Let me know what you're doing to take that next step. I will see you on the top of that mountain.